Picture this, November 26, 1983. The early morning chill hangs over a warehouse near London's Heathrow airport. Inside, security guard Tony Black is getting ready for another routine shift. He makes a cup of tea, settles in, and waits for his colleagues. But this morning would be anything but routine. It was the morning of what would become one of the most infamous heists in British history, the Brinks robbery. Just after 6:30 a.m., a van pulls up. Black, expecting his co-workers, casually opens the roller door. In an instant, 6 men in balaclavas burst in, brandishing firearms. They douse him in petrol and threaten to set him on fire if he doesn't cooperate. Terrified, Black is forced to the ground, his hands cuffed behind his back. The gang's leader tells him they know the security codes change at midnight and that they'll wait with him and his family until the next day if he does uncomply. This was all a bluff, of course, but a terrifyingly effective one. Black was the inside man, though he might not have realized the sheer scale of what was about to happen. His sister was dating one of the robbers, Brian Robinson, and Black had given him crucial details about the warehouse security, thinking it was for a small-time job. The other guards arrived for their shift, one by one, only to be ambushed and subdued by the gang. With the staff under control, the robbers forced Tony Black to open the main vault. Their intelligence suggested they'd find about £3 million in cash, a decent haul, but what they found inside was beyond their wildest dreams. Stacked high were 76 boxers filled with gold bullion, 3.5 tons of it. Alongside the gold were platinum, traveler's checks, and a massive stash of cut and uncut diamonds. The total value, a staggering £26 million. In today's money, that's over £100 million. The gang had hit the jackpot, but now they had a new problem: how to move 3.5 tons of gold. Their getaway van was nowhere near big enough. They had to make 2 trips, loading the van to its breaking point each time. The suspension groaned under the weight as they carefully drove away, leaving the tied-up guards to be discovered hours later. The gang left the scene just after 8 a.m. and disappeared into the London morning, pulling off a crime so audacious it would be nicknamed the crime of the century. The police, led by Flying Squad Commander Frank Cater, were baffled. The heist was meticulously planned and executed with ruthless efficiency. The only immediate lead was the inside man, Tony Black. Under questioning, he quickly confessed his role, pointing the finger at his brother-in-law, Brian Robinson, and another notorious armed robber, Mickey McAvoy. McAvoy was a prominent figure in the London underworld, known for his violent temper and flashy lifestyle. The police had their primary suspects. Robinson and McAvoy were arrested soon after. The evidence against them was strong, largely thanks to Black's testimony. During the trial, their arrogance was on full display. McAvoy even reportedly told the guards in the dock that he'd do 15 years for that, gesturing to the gold bar presented as evidence. His prediction wasn't far off. In December 1984, both Mickey McAvoy and Brian Robinson were sentenced to 25 years in prison for armed robbery. Tony Black, for his cooperation, received a much lighter 6-year sentence. But here's the twist. Locking up the robbers was the easy part. The real challenge was finding the gold. The £26 million worth of bullion had vanished. This is where the story gets even more complex, spiraling into a dark web of money laundering, international crime syndicates, and murder. The Brinks gold was so identifiable that it couldn't be sold on the legitimate market. Each bar had a serial number. It had to be melted down, recast, and disguised. Enter Kenneth Noy, a brilliant but ruthless criminal who specialized in just that. Noy was a master of disguise, a charmer who moved in high society circles while secretly running a criminal empire from his mansion in Kent. He was the perfect man to launder the gold. The gang contacted him, and Noy set up a sophisticated operation. He mixed the stolen gold with copper and other metals to alter its purity, and then recast it, effectively erasing its origins. He then sold the disguised gold back into the legitimate market, often right back to the very dealers it had been stolen from, including Johnson Matthey. It was a brilliant, audacious scheme. The profits were then funneled through offshore accounts and shell companies, making the money untraceable. For a while, the operation ran smoothly. Noy and his associates were making a fortune, but the police were closing in. They placed Noy's property under surveillance, suspecting his involvement. What happened next was a tragic and violent escalation. In January 1985, an undercover police officer, Detective Constable John Fordham, was in Noy's garden, clad in camouflage gear. Noy's dog started barking, and he came out with a shotgun. A confrontation ensued, and Noy fatally stabbed DC Fordham. At his trial, Noy claimed self-defense, arguing he thought he was being targeted by rival criminals. In a shocking verdict that stunned the nation, the jury acquitted him of murder. However, the police had found 11 gold bars from the heist hidden on his property. Public outrage over the acquittal was immense, but justice of a different kind was coming. In 1986, Noy was found guilty of handling the stolen Brinks matte gold and sentenced to 14 years in prison. He was also fined £500,000. The hunt for the gold and the money launderers didn't stop with Noy. The case spawned a legendary curse, the curse of Brinks matte. Over the next 2 decades, more than 20 people connected to the heist met violent ends. Informants, rival gangsters, and even some of the original robbers were targeted in shootings and gangland hits. The vast fortune had become a poisoned chalice. One of the key figures in the laundering chain was a man named John Palmer, nicknamed Goldfinger. Palmer was a scrap metal dealer who allegedly helped melt down a significant portion of the gold at his smelter near Bristol. He was acquitted of handling the gold in 1987 after convincing the jury he didn't know it was stolen. He went on to build a massive timeshare fraud empire in Tenerife, becoming one of Britain's richest criminals. His luck eventually ran out, though, in 2015, he was shot and killed at his home in Essex. A murder that remains unsolved, but is widely believed to be linked to his criminal past. So, whatever happened to all that gold? The truth is, most of it was never recovered. It's believed to have been melted down and absorbed back into the global gold market. The financial legacy of the heist is astonishing. Investigators believe that anyone who bought gold jewelry in the UK after 1983 is likely wearing a piece of the Brinks matte treasure. The laundered money was reinvested into massive property developments, most notably the London Docklands Regeneration Project. The skyline of modern London was, in part, financed by the proceeds of this single robbery. The Brinks matte heist wasn't just a robbery. It was a pivotal moment that exposed the deep connections between violent crime, white-collar fraud, and even legitimate business. It changed the way police investigate large-scale crime and highlighted the incredible difficulty of tracing laundered money. It's a story of greed, violence, and a fortune that ultimately brought misery and death to almost everyone it touched. 3.5 tons of gold vanished, but its shadow still looms large over the British criminal underworld. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into history's most incredible true crime stories. See you next time. The £26 million in gold stolen from the Brinks matte warehouse didn't just vanish into thin air. It moved, it was reshaped, and it corrupted everything it touched. Within weeks of the audacious heist, the entire British criminal underworld started to feel the tremors. A dark cloud of paranoia and violence descended, and people connected to the crime began dying under very mysterious circumstances. This wasn't just a simple robbery anymore. It became a sprawling, bloody saga. Some were shot in cold blood. Others were poisoned, their deaths staged to look like accidents or suicides. Careers were obliterated overnight, and lives were destroyed with chilling efficiency. That £26 million in gold bullion transformed from a prize into a symbol and a weapon. It was powerful enough to change long-standing allegiances, fund new criminal empires, and, most terrifyingly, silence anyone who knew too much. The gold had a curse, and it was spreading. The police investigation, led by determined detectives, eventually led to the arrests of key figures like Leonardo Notarbartolo and his associates. But their confessions were cagey, revealing only tiny fragments of the larger operation. They were just the tip of the iceberg. The most crucial question remained unanswered. Where was the gold? The vast majority of it was still missing, and the truth was far more complex than anyone imagined. Investigators soon discovered the sheer ingenuity of the criminals. The stolen bullion hadn't been stashed in a single location. It had been melted down and recast into smaller, untraceable bars. It was then funneled into a clandestine global network, a shadow economy that spanned continents. Each piece of gold became a ghost, its criminal origin completely erased. It moved between Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, often disguised as legitimate commercial shipments, blending seamlessly into the flow of global trade. The gold was laundered through legitimate markets, its tainted history washed clean. It could be in a piece of jewelry, a component in a high-tech device, or sitting in a vault under a different name. The original 3 tons of gold had dissolved into the world, making it nearly impossible to track. But the ghost of the gold left a trail of bodies. The murders that followed the heist were chillingly systematic. Men who had helped plan the robbery, or who had handled the gold, or who simply knew too much, were methodically eliminated. Professional hitmen were contracted to remove any loose ends, anyone who could pose a threat. The underworld, once governed by its own set of rules, was thrown into chaos. Paranoia was rampant. Criminals who had worked together for years now looked at each other with suspicion. The line between justice and vengeance blurred completely. The operation was no longer about theft. It had become a brutal campaign of terror and control. London's criminal landscape was being reshaped by an unholy trinity of greed, gold, and fear. For the police, the investigation was a nightmare. They were facing constant, seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Potential witnesses were terrified to speak, knowing that talking to the authorities was a death sentence. Physical evidence was scarce. The criminals had been meticulous. Furthermore, the international nature of the laundering operation required cooperation between law enforcement agencies across the world, which was often slow and limited. The sophistication of the money laundering schemes was something they had never encountered on this scale. It made tracing the gold feel like chasing a phantom. Experts and investigators began to speculate. While much of the gold had been shipped abroad, a significant portion may have never even left the UK. It could be hidden away in secret vaults, converted into other assets like property or businesses, or quietly absorbed into private collections of wealthy, unscrupulous individuals. Some even theorize that pieces of the Brinks matte gold are still circulating today, invisibly funding criminal operations, their bloody history a closely guarded secret. It's a chilling thought that the legacy of this one crime continues to fuel others, decades later. The sheer scale and brutal aftermath of the Brinks-Matte heist forced a revolution in British law enforcement and private security. It was a brutal wake-up call. Security protocols for high-value facilities were completely re-examined and overhauled. Banks, vaults, and warehouses strengthened their physical security systems. Surveillance technology was upgraded, with more cameras, more sensors, and more sophisticated monitoring. Crucially, insider threat assessments became a standard procedure. The heist proved that the biggest threat could often come from within. The robbery became a grim cautionary tale taught in police academies and security firms. A case study in the dangerous intersection of ambition, greed, and ruthless criminal strategy. Yet, despite the arrests, the confessions, and the small fraction of recovered evidence, the legacy of the Brinks-Matte robbery remains fundamentally unresolved. It's a story defined by its contradictions, brilliance, and brutality. Incredible ambition and shocking betrayal, unimaginable wealth, and a trail of murder. The full £26 million in gold will likely never be recovered. It has been scattered to the winds, but the human cost is tragically clear. A devastating chain of events that left families destroyed, criminals hunted for the rest of their lives, and London's underworld forever altered by the shadow of the cursed gold. For us, looking back, the Brinks heist is more than just a sensational story of stolen gold. It's a deep dive into human psychology, a masterclass in criminal ingenuity, and a stark look at the dark side of unchecked greed. The audacity of the heist itself is stunning, but it's the systematic, cold-blooded elimination of anyone who knew too much that transforms it into a modern legend. This narrative is still studied today by criminologists, law enforcement professionals, and true crime enthusiasts around the world. Every single twist in the story, from the meticulous planning phase to the bloody, chaotic aftermath, serves as a powerful lesson in the real-world consequences of ambition without morality. The heist remains a towering symbol of what many call the golden age of British organized crime. It was a crime so audacious in its conception, so perfect in its initial execution, and so ruthlessly covered up that it continues to captivate and horrify the world decades later. And while many of the deepest secrets remain buried with the dead, the story itself endures. It's a powerful reminder that in the relentless pursuit of wealth, human lives are too often considered mere collateral damage. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Criminal Verse, where every crime hides a story you won't forget.